Hello, everybody. Weeb Rabbit here, and welcome back to the Otaku Overload Podcast, episode 34. For anyone who was here last week, listening to the end of last podcast, I had mentioned that maybe we might skip this week, but, luckily I had some time, as did Legend of Jonathan, so we actually sat down, and we're recording this a little earlier than usual, which, there's going to be less news and stuff to talk about. But hopefully, all the same, I think we have a good podcast in the works because at least the thing we're going to talk about, like the big news story, I thought it was like a really fun one. So I'm actually kind of excited to talk about it. So yeah, luckily, it looks like we're not going to miss this week, which is awesome. Speaking of which, Legend of Jonathan, how are you doing, my dude?
Yeah, I'm doing excellent. What about you, bro?
I am doing good.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, I'm excited because, like I said, I have a little bit of trip out of town coming up, so that's kind of looking forward to that. And yeah, I'm also pretty excited about the news story because a lot of stuff got announced that we're gonna talk about. And yeah, I'm excited about it. I remember you hadn't heard about it at all, huh? You didn't even know it was gonna happen. I'm like, oh, did you hear about this?
Yeah, I didn't
and that?
know about any of that until I saw the stuff later, and I'm like, oh yeah, no, this seems like pretty, pretty lit. That to know that all this stuff, that's pretty. It was pretty unexpected news,
Yeah, so and I'm happy that happened too, because if not, honestly, I don't really know what we would have talked about. But because luckily the little conference that, we're gonna get to that in a moment happened, that kind of gave us the thing to like, okay, at least we have like a nice news story that's kind of chunky. Because if not, honestly, we might, have just a canceled it or whatever. But I'm like, oh, there's some stuff to talk about. There's like a conference, I'm like, that seems like a nice, short little podcast. So I'm glad it happened. I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right. With that being said, no time like the present. Let's, get to it. So, what did you do this week? Do you have anything to talk about?
I didn't really do so much. It was just me catching up with Pikmin 2. I'm complete with the game now. I'm 100% complete now. I finished post game. I finished the main story before that. And so I just moved on to like Pikmin 3 as of currently, and that's pretty much what I've been up to. So far, Pikmin 3 has been pretty easy so far. It hasn't been that difficult. I noticed a lot of people said two out of like the first three. Well, I said first three because the fourth game's coming out soon. That like the first out of the first three, the third one's like the easiest. And yeah, I can agree that the third one seems to be like the easiest one.
Oh, really?
So
and why is that? Like, what makes it easier, I guess?
I guess like I don't know if it's because like one, baby you just get so used to the gameplay of the first two games that by the third one you're so like used to the third game. I don't know if it's because the fact that like by the time the third game came out on the Wii U, it was like aimed towards like a younger audience and a newer generation. So I guess they wanted to make it more easier, and it seems that like it's been more easier. I like the introduction to that in this game. They introduced like the rock Pikmin and the flying Pikmin. I think that's pretty cool.
Oh, that's right. That is where they introduced these guys, huh? That's
what
cool.
I do think that kind of sucks is that from what I've heard, because I only have them, I just haven't gone anywhere beyond it. I think I've heard that supposedly, I think like the way the rock Pikmin work is that same thing kind of like the other Pikmin, like the purple and the white Pikmin. I think they don't have an onion or something like that, or they don't have like they don't have like a specific thing like the other main three colors, basically. So it's like more difficult having them around. Where like they're useful, is just where can I hide them? Like you have to put them in your ship or something like that.
Oh, weird.
So yeah, I'm like really early in the game. So I don't really have like a big opinion so far. Like oh yeah, I beat in the game.
All you know is that so far, like, oh, it's pretty easy. Is what you feel about. I got you. Huh. Well, hopefully, I know the game's coming up very, very soon. Hopefully you're able to get through this third one, before the fourth one comes out.
Yeah.
Or if not, if it's fine, you can always like buy the fourth one and be like, all right, let me just finish the third one real quick and then jump over to the fourth one. But
so jump over to the fourth one, yeah.
But still, I think it's kind of cool that you it seems like you're on track to get through them before the new one comes out. Like I see, even if you like miss it by like a little bit, it's not too bad. It's really like, like, oh, I'm gonna take a little bit longer to finish it up, but then I can just jump over to the fourth one. So that's not bad.
Yeah.
That is pretty cool. Yeah, I actually just looked it up because I was wondering. I wonder how long it would take to beat Pikmin, 3 Deluxe. It says apparently, it kind of differs, but it says main story is 10 hours. And it says extras, maybe like another 4 hours. Completion is where it gets really crazy. It's just like 28 hours.
Oh yeah,
Just like
there's
a
a
little
lot
bit.
of there's a lot of collectibles in this game.
Yeah. So that really, definitely adds up. But, still, we'll see. We'll see how far
Hmm.
you get into it and how far, you get. But yeah, like, once again, pretty cool. You finished the first two. You're starting the third one. You're on track to get there before the fourth one. So that's pretty good news. And it's cool you've enjoyed all of them so far. It'll be
Hmm.
interesting once you beat the third one and the fourth one, I guess, all of them. That way you can rank them of like which is your favorite and stuff. Because it seems like so
Yeah.
far, you like the second one more than the first one, right? You said.
Hmm.
So who knows if maybe with each game you're going to be like, oh, opposite order. Four is the best for you, third, and second, and first. We'll see how it
Hmm.
goes. But that is pretty cool. Nice. So yeah, no
Yeah.
time like the present. Pretty cool that you got to replay them like right before the fourth one. I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
As we're getting closer, are you getting excited for the fourth one?
I'm actually really excited, especially because like from what I've seen, like the release date, I didn't even know that it was like on that exact day. I found out it's like coming out on the same day as the Barbie movie and like the Oppenheimer movie. And
Oh, is
so I'm
it?
like, yeah, so I'm like, oh my
Oh, damn,
God.
that's a lot going on that
Uh,
day then.
I'm like, bruh, what's gonna happen is I have to go watch Barbie, then play Pikmin a bit, then go watch Oppenheimer, or do it the opposite way: watch Oppenheimer because it's serious, then play Pikmin, and then watch Barbie. So that like the
Jeez.
whole like
No,
like
you should play Pikmin while you're at the theater watching the
that
movies.
watch play the game while watching the movie.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my
Yeah,
God. All right, is that all for you for this week then?
yeah, pretty much.
All right, and I get it because, like I said, obviously we're doing this a little earlier than usual, so maybe you would
Hmm.
have gone around to more stuff, but that's fine. Jumping over to my week then. I had said that I will, anime season was a bit slow. Luckily, it is starting to pick up. I actually found more anime to watch, so maybe it's not as slow as I thought it was going to be. I found a few more anime, and I'm still excited to see once again. I know some of them are like barely starting. That's just the way the anime works. For some of them, let's say the season starts like in July, right? Some of them
Yeah.
they might be coming out like the first week of July. Some of them they might come out like later into July. So there's some I
Hmm.
think still haven't debuted yet. So same thing. But at least out of the ones that I watched, uh, let's see. Well, I guess I'll start with the one I mentioned last week. That's a good place to start. So the one I mentioned last week, I had mentioned one called "The Girl I Like Forgot Her Glasses,"
Oh,
and
that
if
was
anyone remembers,
cute.
I said that it was really cute. It was about the girl that forgot her
Hmm.
glasses, so the guy was like helping her out, and I was wondering, okay, it was very cute because she forgot her glasses, and he helped her out throughout the day by like lending her his book, and he helped protect her like in dodgeball, and when she got the wrong shoes, he helped like tie her shoes and all that stuff, right? And I'm like, oh, but I wonder how it'll work going forward because at the end of the last episode,
She got
she like
con.
had contacts or whatever, and she's like, oh, so that's what you look like, whatever, blah blah. And he was all nervous. Kind of weird. I can kind of see where it's gonna go, I guess. I think that we're gonna do it is that number one, it looks like she will keep forgetting the glasses because she's kind of clumsy. So that's probably one of the excuses. Another one is that she doesn't like wearing the contacts as they freak her out.
Yeah.
There's a part where like literally she doesn't have them. He's like she for all her glasses, she pulls out like a little contact lens case, but she's like, oh, I hate putting this on. Like I remember last time I got like, I think she says she got they got stuck when she was trying to pull them out, like take them out or whatever. So
Oh,
she
that's
doesn't like
sad.
wearing them. So that's probably gonna be an excuse for her to not wear them. And the third is that basically in the second episode, um, she forgets her glasses again, and then she's gonna put on the contacts, but she doesn't want to because she's scared. So he helps her out again with some stuff around, school. Then she does have them, No, then they go out on like a little like trip around town where she says like, "Oh, like you've seen me at like, you know, without my like glasses, squinting, and you've helped me out, and I feel like I can trust you, and it'd be embarrassing to tell like other people, but whatever." So she says, "Oh, I have like some errands to run, basically, if he'll go with her, like the main character." And so he
Mm.
helps her, whatever. And the last stop is that they go to get a new pair of glasses for her at the optometrist. Um, so like I said, the first excuse is sometimes she's clumsy and forgets them. Second excuse is she doesn't like the contacts. Third excuse though is that she was sick after that little outing they had, and so she was wearing a mask, and they would fog her up her glasses. And
Yeah,
basically at the end of the episode, I think they were making fun of another character because his glasses were all fogged up or whatever. And
yeah.
she was kind of like, "Oh, I don't want them to make fun of me." So she like puts her glasses in her desk, and he's like, "Didn't you just have your glasses?" She's like, "No, I forgot them." She's all like embarrassed. So I think that's gonna be like May going forward. What's gonna happen? That when she doesn't wear her glasses, I think she's gonna be shy about being made fun of. And I think maybe that's
Yeah.
why she won't wear them. And
Yeah,
that'll
that
be the
makes sense.
excuse for him to like help her out more.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense.
Because I was wondering, like, what would be the dynamic if she just gets her glasses back? Then, like, why would she rely on him? But I think it's going to be a combination of this stuff that she doesn't like wearing the contacts. Sometimes she really does forget the glasses because she's clumsy. Sometimes I think she might like fake it because she's embarrassed of people making fun of her and stuff. So I think that's gonna be the excuse for him to help her out. And maybe along the way, I don't know, maybe he'll help her with the confidence of like wearing them or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay, I kind of understand where it's going now. And yeah, the second episode was the same. It's pretty cute. It's like one of those, slice of life, romance comedy things, and it's really sweet or whatever. And I enjoy it. It's not like super revolutionary or anything, but it's cute. It's easy to get through or whatever. And yeah, I'll probably continue watching it and see where it goes and see how the relationship between the characters develops. It's always where it's really interesting to see, okay, what do they go through, and that stuff like that. So pretty cute. I'm gonna keep watching it and I keep recommending it. So yeah.
Yeah, it sounds pretty, it sounds pretty good so far.
Yeah, it's pretty low stakes or whatever. It's not like super like revolutionary or anything, but it's cute enough and I like it. And yeah, like I said, it's just like a fun watch. It's light, breezy, so I'm gonna keep watching it. And I'm interested, like I said, to see if like over time maybe he helps her with like the confidence of like, wear your glasses. Don't be embarrassed of people teasing you and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Then the second one I watched, this is probably my favorite of the season so far. So that's why I thought I'd contrast it. That the first one, I was like, oh, I watched this one, it was okay, but it's like the only one so far I found. What will I do? And then like this one came out of nowhere, and I'm like, yo, this is like really good, really surprised me. It's called Zom 100 Bucket List of the Dead. So kind of a weird
Oh
title.
yeah.
And this is a really crazy one that basically there's this 24-year-old that he talks about how um he basically hates his job. He's been at the same job for 3 years. It's this like I don't even know what kind of like company it is because it shows them doing like editing like videos and stuff, and they definitely work with like editing and like video production and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
basically, he's been working at the job for 3 years. And it shows that when he like first started there, like his first day, he was really excited. And he met everybody, and it seemed like a really nice workplace. Everyone seemed really cool. There was this like lady working there, like he kind of had like a crush on her because she seemed really sweet, and all sorts of stuff. Uh, and then they do the usual thing where like after work, everyone goes to like drink and hang out. And well, again, they're asking him questions about what university he went to and everything. And he's like really happy and he's getting along with everybody. But then where it kind of like takes like a oh no, is that he had already worked like a long day. They went out to like eat and drink and whatever. And
Yeah.
then as he's like, oh, can't wait to like, for tomorrow or whatever, everyone goes like, all right, back to work. And they pull out their badges again and they go back to the office, and he talks about how he didn't get to go home for 2 days.
Damn.
So he went to work for a full day, fell asleep at the office for a few hours, was woken up the next morning by his coworkers so they could start again, worked through that whole day, like late into the night and then went home. And basically from there, he just like it breaks his spirit because it's one of those like exploitative companies where like they just get worked like crazy. And not
Yeah.
only that, but the sad part is that like when companies are like that, the sad part is that people normalize it. And we see some of that too. That people are like, all tired with bags under their eyes and stuff. Like, oh, how many hours of overtime did you put in? 150? Oh, talk to me when you do 200.
Yeah, it's super.
And then like a
Yeah.
higher up talking about like, oh, of course you get like, certain amount of days off and you get the day of the anniversary off. Like I guess like let's say like every year that it hits anniversary, you're supposed to get the day off too. Blah 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 blah. They're talking about like the days off. He's like, yeah, but no one actually takes those days.
That's yeah.
And so that's the bad part. Not only is it like an exploitative company, whether it shows them overworking themselves and it shows like some guy asking them for like a last minute thing where like, oh, the grandson of the CEO of the company wants to be like in this like video. And then he's like, I don't think I can do it because it's like so last minute. Oh, I guess we'll go to like a different company. So he like gets guilted. It's like, okay, I'll have it done by tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like just a bunch of stuff like that. So that's what breaks his spirit enough that after working there for 3 years, he's like depressed. It shows him in front of the TV, just like dead inside. And so where like all of this kicks off. Oh, and worst of all, the girl he has a crush on, she's the manager or whatever. It's his mistress.
Damn.
It's like everything in his life sucks. He's overworked. He has no time to himself. It's just to work and back all the time. Even the girl that he has an interest in, she's the CEO's mistress. So he has nothing going on in his life. He feels overworked. He hates his life. There's a part where literally he was thinking, like, there's a little guardrail that comes up when the subway's coming, and he's like, "Oh, it's a shame that like the guardrail came up. This prevents me from like if I just stepped into like the subway as it's coming or whatever, I would have to go to work tomorrow."
Damn.
Like he's that out of it. Like, he almost wishes he could die. It's like really sad. And like he feels he's trapped. He even talks about like it's too late to get another job because like when would I apply? When would I even have the time to look for another job? So all that stuff, pretty sad, pretty like oof. Of course, what makes this interesting, where like the story kicks off, is that as he's going to bed, they're talking about how like something is going on. Of course, some sort of like a zombie apocalypse, but he's not really paying attention. And the next morning when he wakes up, he's heading to work, and I think he's gonna go like pay his rent to like the landlord or something. I don't remember why he goes to like the landlord. And because I think his bike got like because he didn't pay like his parking fee for his bike or something. And he's gonna go talk to like the landlord, and he sees a zombie, eating somebody, like the landlord eating somebody or something. And that's when he starts running away from us. A bunch of zombies are chasing him because it's the fast type of zombies that can, run. And as he's running away and stuff and whatever, this man is so depressed. His spirit is so broken that at first he's like, "Oh my god, I'm gonna be late to work," this and that. But then as he like sees that all these zombies are like attacking, and he sees that the world's gone to shit, like he literally sees like a plane falling from the sky and like everything's on fire. He's like, "This means I don't have to go to work anymore." And he starts seeing the world in color, and he starts getting happy, and like it makes him happy that the world's coming to an end because he doesn't have to go to work anymore.
Damn. That's
That's
crazy.
it's so weird, but it kind of makes it funny in a really dark way.
Yeah, because that sounds
And
pretty
so
funny. Yeah.
basically, where it kicks off is that he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna see if that coworker's still alive," because he looks her up in the system. He's like, "I'm gonna confess my feelings to her, this and that. If she's alive." Unfortunately, when he gets there, both her and the manager, they've been turned into zombies, so
Oh
that doesn't work
no.
out. But he takes it in stride. He still confesses his feelings, even though she's a zombie and she's not going to react. And then he runs away. That's where he decides that, well, with that out of the way, I'm not going to be afraid of living anymore. And that's where he creates his bucket list. And I guess the series is going to be about him doing stuff that he's always wanted to do. And even though there's a zombie apocalypse, he is not going to let him get it down. And he's going to live life to the fullest from now on. So a very strange premise.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so isn't that weird? It's super weird. But yeah, I think the last line of the little synopsis on my anime list says the best. It says the whole city swarming with zombies, and even though he's running for his life, Akira has never felt more alive. So there you go.
great. The
So it's
fact that
about a
he,
guy that even though there's a zombie apocalypse, instead of being like sad, depressed, upset that the world as he knows it is like destroyed, he is taking it in stride, and he's gonna use this chance to do everything he's ever wanted to do because he's no longer a slave to the system.
damn, that's crazy.
So
The
that's a
fact
pretty
that,
interesting premise. I've never seen that
yeah,
before. That's really weird, right?
yeah,
So yeah, it's my favorite so far out of this season. It sounds really interesting. It's a really interesting premise, a really interesting take on, a zombie setting or whatever.
hmm
And yeah, it kind of has like some dark comedy and stuff. So like, I don't know. I really want to see more of this. I'm really interested. And I know a lot of people who saw this, they were like going like, "Yo, this is like really weird," but like, all right, cool. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Yeah, so I'm really interested to watch this. I want to keep watching it. It's supposed to run for 13 episodes, no, 12 episodes. That's really cool. And yeah, apparently it's based on a manga. So as always, maybe once the season's done, I'll check out the manga and stuff and hopefully we'll see how far it gets and stuff, you know what I mean?
No, sounds pretty lit.
Yeah, pretty cool. So I really like it. I recommend it. And this is a weird one. You know how everything's usually like on Crunchyroll or High Dive and stuff these days?
Yeah.
This one is on Netflix and Hulu, I believe.
Oh, wow.
So I think it depends on like what region you're in. I think that's like the thing, but
Yeah.
it's a Netflix Hulu sort of thing. So that's really different because like I said, usually it's like, oh, it's Crunchyroll, it's High Dive and that sort of thing. So this one is pretty different, but there you
It's
go,
on Hulu
Netflix
or,
and
okay.
Hulu, depending on your region. And yes, I want to keep watching it because it's
No,
pretty
it sounds
interesting.
pretty
Like I
cool. It
said,
sounds
so
pretty
far,
cool.
yeah, so far this is like the leader for me for like the season.
It sounds pretty cool.
Yeah. Then the next one that I have to talk about, also a new one that is also pretty interesting. Um, not the zombie one is still like my favorite, but I still just think this one's pretty interesting and it seems like it has some potential. It's pretty strange, but I've enjoyed the first episode so far. This one is called "The Masterful Cat is Depressed Again Today," so kind of weird
Oh,
title. And in Japanese, it's called Deki Neko because it's like a longest title. Sometimes in Japanese, they
they
shorten it.
abbreviate it. Yeah.
Yeah, so Deki Neko, the Masterful Cat is depressed again today. And the reason I decided to check it out is because if you look at like the cover art for it, it's like this girl getting ready to put her shoes on, like she's an office lady, and there's like this huge cat in an apron ready to give her like lunch. And I'm like, what is up with that? Like, what's up with like her having like a cat servant basically or whatever? I'm like, that's really weird. And yeah, as you watch it, it's really funny because it's like this girl, she's an office worker. And basically, yeah, it shows throughout the episode that she brought home this tiny little kitten one day during the winter. And apparently it grew and grew and grew. And it grew up to be a huge cat that's like about the size of her or bigger. And basically, he just takes care of the household. He does all of like the laundry, the cleaning, he does all the cooking and stuff. And it's her pet, but he's also like her caretaker. So it's just really funny. And it's just kind of fun just seeing the cat and all the stuff he does. And I was wondering at first too, like, do people know about the cat? Because I started thinking, like, if he's making all her lunch and stuff, wouldn't he have to go to the store, like, to get like stuff? And then there's a line too where she was looking up cats at work because I guess she's
Yeah.
trying to see if like other huge cats like this exist. And a coworker catches her looking, and she starts talking about her cat, and her coworkers are kind of like listening. Oh, you have a pet cat? That's really cool, whatever. And then I think it's like her manager or something, like someone who's like above her, right? He's like,
Yeah.
yeah, something about your cat. How's he doing? And she's like, oh, he's doing good, this and that. And then he like mentions again, yeah, I've met your cat before. And she's like, why? When did he meet my cat? So she's like wondering, but she like didn't ask. And so that's what made me wonder, like, wait, so do people know about this cat being like a human-sized cat? And yeah, apparently because the cat when he goes to throw away the trash, the landlord of the building, she like talks to the cat and everything. Like the cat can't talk,
That's
but
crazy.
she talks to him and she's like not weirded out at all. Like he's like this
What?
human-sized cat. And in the
That's
preview, yeah, in the preview it shows that when he goes to like the store, people interact with him and stuff. So I'm like, okay, so it's just like a fantasy world where even though as that we know of, he's like the only human-sized cat for whatever reason. Don't really know why. Apparently people are like cool with him. So like, okay then.
That's crazy, bro.
Yes, it's
Oh
really
my
funny.
god.
So it's just an interesting anime. I want to see more of it. Of like, okay, what does this cat get up to? Who does he interact with? What do they think of this
Yeah.
cat running around? How does her manager or whatever know about him? When did he meet him? Stuff like that. So it's not very deep, but it's kind of a fun anime where it's just like, okay, this girl gets taken care of by a cat. How did he get so big? If they ever explain it. And like I said, who does he interact with and stuff? Just seems fun.
Yeah. Go
Kind of
get your
reminds me. Oh, what were you gonna say? Sorry.
go get yourself a cat or dog that's exactly like this, bro. One that's
Right?
like the same height as you almost and does your laundry and everything.
Right? That'd be fun. That'd be
Yeah.
fun. I was gonna say, it kind of reminds me a little bit. Yeah, we had. I don't think we had started the podcast at this point. There was this anime a few seasons back, a few years ago, that was called "My Roomie is a Dino," and it was about this Gyaru, which means the girls
Yeah.
always have like the blonde hair, and they're kind of like tanned up and whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah, that she met a dinosaur that was her roommate.
What?
It was
Oh
like it
yeah.
was a little blue dinosaur, and it was really cute. And he was her roommate, and it was about them like hanging out and like people, same thing, interacting with him and stuff. Kind of reminds me of that, where even though it's like, oh, it's a dinosaur, I think people would be weirded out. Like they get over it really quick, and they just kind of like talk to him like if he was just like anyone else. Kind of reminds me of that, except that in that the dinosaur wasn't cooking for her and like her caretaker.
It was
It was
just
just kind of like a little bit of a
a
mooch, honestly.
yeah.
But it kind of reminds me of that, just about a girl having like a roommate living with her that's just like this weird
Animal.
creature. Kind of reminds me of that, what I mean? It's kind of fun.
Yeah, 'cause that actually yeah, I can see what you mean. Yeah, and that kind of hearing that kind of reminds me of that. Yeah, it sounds pretty similar to this.
Yeah, so pretty fun. And like I said, I kind of just want to see where it goes and what shenanigans the cat gets up to and stuff. So again, just a pretty easy to watch, slice of life comedy series or whatever. Its title is Supernatural, which makes sense because you have the cat, and I don't know if they're going to introduce other, supernatural stuff, but so far pretty fun. I recommend it. I think it's a fun, again, just like really easy to watch thing or whatever. So I like it. I recommend it. So there you go.
Nice.
And finally, the last anime I want to talk about. It is a return. I think I did talk about this one. I want to say I did talk about this one on the podcast when we first started. It is called The Duke of Death and His Maid. I feel like I talked about it. I want to say I did talk about it when the first season was out, that we first started the podcast. I want to say we did talk about it. For anyone who doesn't remember, or in case I did talk about it, I don't remember. Basically, it's about how there's this character that, for whatever reason, we don't really know yet. Hopefully, the second season, explains it better. He is from like a rich family. That's why they call him a duke. And basically, he's supposed to be the heir to the fortune of that family because it's a big, rich, upstanding family. But at some point, he got cursed by this witch that anything he touches will die.
Damn.
So whether he touches a person or even something as simple as like a flower, it like withers and dies in his hand. And because of that, basically his family ostracized him, and he got sent to live like in a different place. He lives like a different like estate or whatever. And the
Yeah.
only ones that live with him are his butler named Rob and his maid called Alice. And basically him and the maid, they're like in love. And it's
Yeah.
hard though because obviously, anything he touches will like die. But it's about kind of him dealing with like his curse, him dealing with like the isolation, him being in love with the maid, but he can't really return like the feelings because obviously if he kisses her or even like touches her without like his glove, he'll die or whatever. She likes to tease him all the same though. Like, even though like it could like, probably kill her, she loves to tease him and like always get like really close and stuff. I don't know why. That's just the way she shows her affection and stuff. And yeah, basically the first season was just a lot of, kind of introducing the characters, introducing his family, talking about like the isolation, and he does meet like these supernatural characters near the end, and he kind of talks about the curse and stuff. And so far in the second season, it looks like it's going to be more of that, where I think they're going to, in the first season, they don't talk much about like where the curse came from or anything. So I'm thinking the second season's where it's going to finally get more into like the backstory of explaining more of like the supernatural elements of like why he got cursed or what happened to that witch, what is up with supernatural beings in this series, and etc. So not much
Yeah.
has happened. When the first episode is out, it didn't really like show much. It kind of just like re-showed all the characters and stuff. But I liked the first season. I thought it was interesting, and I think it's just like a pretty interesting anime where it's kind of interesting. Where it's like I want to know more about like the lore and why he got cursed, who cursed him. Like I said, their relationship's really fun. I want to see if are they able to get together eventually, that sort of thing. So it's interesting enough. It's not going to be for everybody. I know a lot of people like they watch the first episode and they're like, oh, reminded me of why I didn't, I don't even know how I sat through the first season. It's like really boring, blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't know. It's not for everybody, I guess, but I
Yeah.
enjoy it. I think it's a fun, supernatural, like romance thing. You know what I mean? And I think it's
Yeah.
interesting, like I said, that just the world building. And I want to know, like, why this happened and if they'll be able to cure it and stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm invested. I like it. It's not going to be for everybody, but I like the setting. I like the characters. I like the kind of like gothic tones and setting and stuff. You know what I mean? So yeah, I enjoyed enough, and I'm just glad that it's back. Um, yeah, basically that's basically it. It's just one of those things where like it just depends on how invested you get in the story. I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, I enjoy it. I'm glad it's back, and yeah, I definitely want to see more of it. So yeah,
Nice.
that's basically it. Like I said, not really one that I think is gonna be for everybody, but if you kind of like that sort of gothic supernatural setting and romance and stuff, and you're like
That's
a
good.
sucker for like the rom-coms and stuff, I guess you might enjoy their banter and like their relationship and stuff. It's pretty cute, and I don't know, I think there's more to it too. I think it's a little deeper too, because just like the fact that his family has ostracized him and how he's like isolated and how his butler and his maid are like the only people there for him and stuff. I think it's
Yeah.
kind of nice to see kind of like that little makeshift family, and the fact that yeah, like the maid really loves him, and she's like I said, she almost doesn't care like to get close to me if it'll kill her. Like she like always risking it and stuff. So I don't know. I like it. And
Yeah.
once again, it's called The Duke of Death and His Maid Season 2.
Nice.
Yeah. So yeah, there you go. That is my week. Those are the anime I'm watching so far, but I am excited. I'm excited to see where all of the ones I just talked about. I'm excited to see where they go. I'm excited to see what other stuff is coming up. Like I said, I'm still keeping my ear to the ground to see what other stuff people are buzzing about. And yeah, I know that just in general, there's supposed to be like other stuff coming back for season two's like Bleach, for instance, that
Yeah.
1,000-year-old war arc or whatever, blood arc, whatever it's called. I forget what it's called, but I know that's supposed to be, continuing. So, I want to jump back into that and stuff. So far, kind of a slow start, but we'll see how the season goes. So far, as we're getting into it, I'm starting to, yeah, I'm getting excited. I'm starting to see some good stuff here and there. So not bad.
Yeah.
Alrighty, with that being said, jumping over to the news for the week. We only have one news story, but it kind of comes with a lot to talk about. So I'm pretty excited. As the title of the article states, Limited Run Games announces over 20 new physical releases at LRG3 2023.
Oh yeah,
So this
that
is what
was
we're
pretty
talking
lit.
about. That basically, I didn't even know about this, but then I found out about it, and then I told you about it.
Hmm.
That basically, because we're still kind of in E3 season. I mean, at this point, it's kind of a low. It's kind of you can say it's kind of late. Like a lot of people had it in June, but I guess some people are still kind of doing it, still trying to get presentations out of the way. So I guess normally limited run games would have talked about this during E3, but they didn't. So they talked about it now. They had their own showcase, like a stream or whatever. And yeah, as it says here, they announced a lot of games that they're porting or releasing and stuff. And yeah, we're going to talk about some of them because we're not going to talk about all of them. Though if you look at the article, you can look at the full list and all the links and stuff. But I did want to talk about some of them, at least the bigger ones that I know about and I'm excited for. So going alphabetically, the first one that really caught my attention is that they're releasing a spiritual successor to the Zelda CDI games, which is super crazy to think about.
Especially because, yeah, man, those games.
They're infamous for like the weird cutscenes and stuff. And
Yeah. Yeah.
apparently someone decided, why don't we just like do like a spiritual successor, and why don't we just like go with that aesthetic? Let's see if it like tracks some attention. And
Yeah.
yeah, the game is called 𝐤𝐤𝐳, the Jewel of Faramore. And it's this like game that, yeah, if you look at like the backgrounds and like the way it scrolls like the screen, if you look at like the cutscenes and stuff, it reminds you of Zelda, the CDI games.
It does, yeah.
And best, yeah, if you look at the trailer, they even said that the voice of Zelda and Link from, those games, like from the cutscenes, they're back and they're going to provide voices. So that is really crazy.
That's pretty crazy, yeah.
And yeah, it's just, oh my God, it's crazy because if you look at the gameplay itself, it doesn't look that bad. And that's the thing about the CDI Zelda games. If you look at the gameplay itself, it didn't look bad. The art, I would say, is even kind of nice. But those cutscenes are just so janky. They're like so weird looking, the art.
And then the dialogue was always all awkward.
Yeah, but that's what they're kind of going for with this like aesthetic. So I think it's kind of fun. So yeah, they announced that. I think that's kind of cool. Or we'll see how well that does. But I'm like, that's kind of cool. Someone decided, hey, why don't we go with that jank, and why don't we make like a spiritual successor? Why don't we like go with it? So we'll see how that goes. But there you go. If you ever were wondering if they were gonna make another Zelda CDI type game, I don't think anyone had it on their bingo card. But there you go. 𝐤𝐤𝐳, the Jewel of Faramore. There you go.
That's pretty crazy.
Then the next one that caught my attention is they're gonna make a collection. It's called the Castlevania Advance Collection, and it is gonna be on Switch. It's PS4. I don't know if it's PS4 or PS5. I don't remember actually. Is it PS4 or PS5? It's PS4. But at the moment, yeah, it's PS4, Xbox, and Switch. And basically, it's a collection of Castlevania Circle of the Moon, Castlevania Harmony of Dissonance, and Castlevania Aria of Sorrow, which are all GBA games, plus the Super Nintendo game called Dracula X. So 4 games in one. Pretty cool. They're all from around the same era. Personally, I think Aria of Sorrow is really good. I've played it before. Basically, I think it's really good because it's like the furthest in the timeline. And it's supposed to be that, at this point, Dracula, he's been defeated. And it's his reincarnation. It's his teenager named Soma Cruz. And so basically, it's about this reincarnation of Dracula and having to deal with whether he gives into the dark side or not. So I think that's really cool. It's like really interesting. Like I like that it's like in like, it takes place like, I forget what year. At this point, we might have passed it, but at the time, it was like the future. You know what I mean? Like 2020 or something like that, I'd say. And it's pretty cool that, yeah, you play as like the reincarnation of Dracula, which I thought was like really interesting. So yeah, Castlevania Advance Collection, 4 games in one, coming to, all current gen systems. Sounds pretty cool,
Nice.
Then the other one that caught my attention, next one is Clock Tower. That Clock Tower is a series of like survivor horror games where usually, I think the most famous is, the girl running around and the guy with scissors is chasing her. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This one is a remake. No, not a remake. Sorry, it's an enhanced port. It's an enhanced port of the first one that we never got. It was only a Japan exclusive. It came out on the Super Famicom in 1995. It's an enhanced port of that game.
Yeah, we never got that one.
Yeah, that's really cool because the one we got for like the PS1, it was also called Clock Tower, but it was actually the second one. A lot of people don't know that because it was just called Clock Tower. But yeah, it's actually the second title. So we're getting the first title for the first time ever. So that's really cool. And that's supposed to come out in 2024. So
that's pretty cool.
Pretty cool stuff. A game that, we never got over here in the West or whatever.
Officially, yeah.
Yeah, there's just been like fan translations. Pretty cool that we're getting it. I like that. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Then the next one that I actually didn't know about this. You're the one who pointed this one out to me. Double Shake.
Double Shake, yeah.
Yeah, this one's really cool. I didn't know about it all either. And looking at it, I was like, oh, so is this like a port of an old game? I don't remember hearing about this. You're like, no, it's a brand new game, but it's like purposely looks retro. So basically, if you guys remember when we played the 2 Klonoa games on the channel, Klonoa is really special because of how, it's like a platformer where you throw things into like the distance. And basically this game called Double Shake, it purposely looks retro, like in that style. And it's like this girl with red hair running around, and the gameplay is the same, where it's like a platformer and you throw stuff into the background and stuff. So I'm like, yo, this looks really cool. I
It's a
would not
2.5.
mind. Huh?
It's like a 2.5D game, yeah.
Yeah, that's what we call it, 2.5D platformer. Yeah.
Hmm.
And I'm like, yo, I did not even like know this existed. I guess you had heard about it, or like, how did you know about it? How did you know that it was like
Well, I was looking through all the stuff because of later how you told me, you're like, yeah, there was like the limited run, like, conference.
Oh, okay. So
And
you
then
just have to stumble upon it and like look at the
like
trailer
the
and
thing,
stuff.
and I saw the trailer, yeah.
Oh, got you. Okay, cool. Yeah, I thought maybe you had heard about it, like you knew about it from like before this or something.
No, yeah, no.
Oh, okay, but either way, I'm glad you told me about it because yeah, when I looked at it, I looked at the trailer, I'm like, yo, this looks really fun. I would not mind
It
playing another
does.
game in the Klonoa style. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And yeah, and the main character looks pretty cute. It's this like girl with like red hair and like a green sweater. I don't know what her deal is. We'll have to see. But yeah, another like Klonoa style game. That's pretty cool. I'm looking forward to
Nice,
that. I think that's
yeah.
going to be fun. I just hope that it takes care of some of the issues Klonoa had, some of those quality of life issues.
Hmm.
But yeah, pretty cool. I'm looking forward to it. We'll have to see. But yeah, it's called Double Shake. So I'm like, all right, another one that caught my attention. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Then this next one, I had heard about it before. I actually learned about it like about a year ago. Interestingly enough, that people had like talked about how they kind of like the game despite it being kind of janky. And I saw here that they're, re-releasing it. It's this game called 𝐿𝐸𝐵𝐷𝐼 Ascension of the Metatron. Apparently it came out in 2011 for PS3 and Xbox 360. Now obviously they're gonna like, port it and whatever. It's gonna be like, enhanced or whatever. This is a really interesting game that it is a hack and slash where you play as the biblical character Enoch. I don't know how many people know
Hmm.
about that. And it's about how this prophet from the Bible, so he's an actual biblical character. It's a hack and slash where you play as that guy, that he is tasked by God to fight like 7 fallen angels or whatever. So it's like weirdly kind of like also like biblical sort of. So that's where people are saying like, yeah, this game's like really interesting. Like, because the people are usually like, oh, like they joke about how like stuff like Doom is a Christian because like, oh, the Doom Slayer is killing like demons in hell or whatever. And they're like
Oh, yeah,
that's
yeah,
pretty,
yeah,
they're
yeah.
like that's kind of, that's kind of biblical, right? Because he's fighting like the bad guys, right? Or whatever.
Yeah.
And then yeah, I heard about this game like a year ago where people were like talking about this game kind of like, I guess, in the same vein. And yeah, apparently it's a platforming hack and slash where yeah, you play as the prophet Enoch, who in the Bible he's mentioned, he's from like the descendancy of, Adam and Eve, that he's this character that apparently he never died. It says like, oh, in the Bible he like, hung out with God, and one day God just like tells him like in his human form, he just like pulls him up to heaven. He never died. So that's really interesting. And he was a prophet too. And yeah, apparently it's about how you play as him, and he's fighting fallen angels. And that's a pretty interesting concept. All right. And I've heard some people say that despite being kind of janky, that they enjoyed it or whatever. And the fact that we're getting like a port of it that's enhanced or whatever, I'm like, that's pretty interesting, I guess. I kind of would want to try it out to see what's up with the game. It sounds like a very interesting concept, I guess.
Yeah.
So I'm all right. That's coming out. I might check it out then.
Yeah.
So that's when it caught my attention when I saw it on the list. Then this next one. This one was funny. I don't think anyone saw this coming.
Me neither.
Apparently, we are getting an enhanced port of the 𝐥𝐤𝐤 trilogy.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's tail time. If anyone's ever seen like those videos where Dunkey makes fun of the games, because the 𝐥𝐤𝐤 games are just like really weird, and they're all full of like references, and it's all full of 𝐥𝐤𝐤, so he's talking, he will shut up, and he's like talking about pop culture and stuff.
Yeah, it's like Family Guy jokes where they'll be like, "This reminds me of like."
Yeah, with all the cutaways, but he literally
Yeah,
goes like, "This reminds me of like going to James
house.
Earl Jones' house or whatever," and
But like he'll
this
just mention it.
reminds me.
Yeah.
This reminds me of the time I partied with, such and such person. It's always weird stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's full of a bunch of references and pop culture humor. Basically, it's like this platformer, where you play as this like anthropomorphic gecko named Gex. They're pretty fun. I enjoy the games enough. I wouldn't say like they're like the best games in the world, but they're pretty fun in their own way. You know what I mean? And basically, yeah, we are getting enhanced ports of them. So that's pretty cool. I mean, people have been wondering, are they ever going to do anything with Gex? Are they ever going to get like a new game or like anything like that? And at the very least, we're going to get some enhanced ports of the trilogy. So I would say that's something, it's pretty cool. So
Yeah.
who knows? Maybe this could lead to new things in the future. Who knows? So pretty cool. It's kind of fun to see a lot of these mascots and stuff coming back,
Yeah.
Then after that, jumping down the list a bit, the next one that caught my eye, because I know about it at the very least, I've heard about it before. There's this game called Plumbers Don't Wear Ties. It's an FMV/visual novel. So FMVs, if anyone remembers, those are like the type of games where it was the actual actors on screen, acting out like the scenes and stuff. And sometimes you would like make choices, and like that's how it would like further like the story. An example would be like, what's the one with Night Trap, the one where it's like
Night
the
Trap,
actual huh
Night Trap, yeah.
Yeah, Night Trap, where it's actual actors and they're like running around the house, and you see the girls like they're hanging out in different parts of the house partying or whatever. Like it's like actual actors, like it's actual video, but you like make choices and interact with it, and that leads to like different like cutscenes basically. So it's a game like that. It's like an adult, romantic visual novel / FMV. I actually heard about it before. I had seen like a channel somewhere on YouTube before play it, and they were making fun of it. Well, for whatever reason, they're deciding that September 2023, they are making a definitive edition of it that I think is going to have some new stuff, and it's coming to all systems. So that's going to be interesting, I guess. So I didn't expect that one, but when I saw it, I'm like, all right, I guess FMVs are still around. They're still kicking. Even though a lot of them were like really popular like in the 80s and 90s, there's still some games out here, repping the genre. So I don't know, pretty interesting, I guess. So
that's very beautiful,
Yeah, pretty funny. Then after that, another one that's really exciting. This one a lot of people did not like call it at all, but I think it's really cool. Is that they are finally bringing back a canceled Shantae game, which is really cool.
Oh yeah, that was a pretty good announcement.
Yeah, so basically for anyone who's a fan of the Shantae games, they'll know that between the Game Boy Color game in 2002, the next game wasn't until 2010, and it was called Risky's Revenge for like the DSi. But between those two games, they actually had a few ideas for a few other games. One of them was called Risky Revolution, and I think it was supposed to be for the Game Boy Advance. And it was supposed to be like they were almost like done with it, I think, or whatever. They're like really far into development, and I think they were looking at like in 2004 is when they canceled it because they couldn't find a publisher.
Yeah.
Well, surprise, surprise. In the year 2023, they decided that I guess they like reunited and they were able to get like the source code and whatever. I don't know what happened, but basically this game that would take place between the first and the second game. So this should have been the second game. They're bringing it back, and they're actually going to release on actual Game Boy Advance cartridges with game link capability. So it's really cool, and it's supposed to explain how she met a lot of the side characters. Because in the first game, she fights Risky Boots as usual, and she has her friends. She meets Roddy Tops, which at the time her and her brothers are like antagonists or whatever. But the other characters, they're not really around or whatever. I don't think they're really, they're really in the first game, I think. And this is supposed to explain kind of how she met everybody for the first time and everything, and their like relationships and stuff. So I just think it's really cool that they're able to bring this game back. That it looked like it was canceled. There was a scrap. They're like, we were able to, go back to it, and we're going to finish it, and we're going to release on Game Boy Advance cartridges, which I think at first, a lot of people are worried, or they're like, is it really going to be only Game Boy Advance? I want to play on other systems. Do I have to wait? Am I going to have to wait for it to be online and, rip the ROM or whatever? What I think they're going to do is I think they're going to release on Game Boy Advance cartridges first. I think that's like the gimmick. And I think they'll probably port it later, honestly. I can
To
see them
like
port it
other
later.
consoles, yeah.
Yeah, I think the Game Boy Advance thing's just a gimmick, you know, but
Hmm.
I still want to get a Game Boy Advance cartridge, honestly. I still think that'd be really cool.
That would be pretty cool, yeah.
And then later, support it when it comes out like on other stuff. But yeah, I'm looking
Hmm.
forward to this. More Shantae's pretty cool. So there you go. We're not getting a Shantae 6 quite yet, but we
We're
are
gonna
getting a
Shantae too.
game. Yeah, a game that was basically canceled. So pretty cool. And then the last game on the list, that's something I recognize, is Tomba. I think that's how you can say it, Tomba. And it's pretty
Hmm.
cool. It's this little game. If anyone played it back in the day, it was a game for the PS1. There was this little platformer adventure game where you play as like this little caveman that he would bounce on enemies and stuff and collect stuff. And basically the same thing as the, I believe, Gex games. That yeah, they're getting it's getting a remaster. It's kind of weird trying to like nail exactly what it is because it says remaster, but then in our spot it says it's a port. And the reason it's kind of weird is because it's an enhanced port, but because it is a new engine, that's why some people say remaster. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Because it's supposed to be the same game. It's not like it's anything like different, but because it's a new engine, it's kind of a remaster. So I don't know. You could call it a remaster. You could call it an enhanced port. I think either one is accurate. But yeah, same as the Gex games. Apparently, they're using a new engine to make them look better and pretty cool. So yeah, Tomba is coming back. It is getting a. It says here 25 years later. A lot
Yeah,
of people. I've heard a lot of people say it's kind of underrated. Not too many people mention it when they mention PS1
hmm
games. Although a lot of people really liked it, so that is coming back as well.
yeah, because I was like, what is this game? Because I was like looking through it multiple times just to like see if it rung any bells. And then the moment like I saw like how do you call it? I saw like the pigs and stuff. I'm like, oh yeah, I know this game. I remember that. And then I was
Nice.
yeah, so I'm pretty. I think I might check that one out along with Gex when it comes out, honestly.
Yeah, and it's really cool that they're doing the whole enhanced port, slash remaster on a new engine
Hmm.
and stuff. That'll probably definitely help bring it to like current gen, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty exciting stuff. I mean, obviously, you guys are free to check out the link below and go to the article and look at all the games that are listed. We didn't mention all of them. As it said in the article, there's like more than 20. We really went over a few of them, but some really exciting stuff. And I think it's really cool. Limited run games had their conference and announced so much stuff. I think it's really exciting. I think it's really fun. And I'm really looking forward to like a lot of stuff. Like they mentioned some really good stuff. I mean, just the ones I recognize I thought was really cool. Some of the stuff on here might be really good too. We'll just have to wait and see. Stuff that I don't even
Hmm.
recognize. People might hype it up and I might check it out as well. So I thought that was a really good conference. And I think it's a really cool news story. So that's what I want to share. And I'm really glad that happened.
Yeah.
Alrighty, guys. And finally, to wrap up, we are going to jump over to the topic of the week, which is what I recommend. It should be no surprise. It's something that I've played on the channel. I've played 2 of the games. It's something that I just talked about that I'm really excited. I just talked about it a moment ago. So my recommendation for the week slash the topic is I think everybody should check out the Shantae series. For anyone who doesn't know, for some reason, if you're new to the channel, you haven't checked out my gameplays or you know nothing about the series, just to give a brief, little rundown, the Shantae series is a platformer slash, you can kind of call them Metroidvanias at times. I think that's pretty
Hmm.
accurate. So they're platformer, slash Metroidvania games, depending on which one you really play. Yeah, this series has been around since 2002. So since back on the Game Boy Color, and it stars a genie, or a half genie named Shantae. And
Hmm.
basically, I think it's a really fun series. It's basically way forward. They're a publisher who's made stuff like, they've made like the River City Girls series. They've done they've worked with other studios to make stuff like the DuckTales, remaster. I think they've worked in some of the Castlevania games before. They've made a few games here and there. They make original stuff, and they, like I said, team up with our studios to like do remasters or do like work for it. Yeah, what's like another series that they helped with just recently? I don't remember, but regardless, the point is, WayForward Studios, they're like a little indie developer slash publisher, but they definitely have like some good experience. Like they're a pretty, they have experience.
And they do a lot of I'll continue real quick.
projects. Huh?
And then they're really good at remastering a lot of stuff for other companies too and everything. So you'll recognize that like whenever Disney has to like port an old game that they've collabed with, like let's say Capcom, for example, like WayForward is usually the people who end up like doing the game for Disney, like remastering it or remaking it, stuff like that.
That's what I'm saying. They're an indie developer and publisher that it seems like they're pretty well respected. It seems like people usually enjoy their games and stuff. Pretty cool. And basically, like for instance, they're the ones who just helped with Advance Wars 1 and 2, the little remake that just happened. They never took forever for that to come out. They worked on that, for instance, so pretty cool.
Yeah.
But getting back to Shantae, so basically, I would say that she's like basically their standout, series. It's basically like kind of like their little mascot of the company, Shantae. And basically, Shantae, like I said, she's like a half genie. That she is the hero of this seaside town called Scuttletown. And basically, the games just follow her adventures of her having to save her town she lives in, or even the Sequin land, which is like the land she lives in. It depends, but she's just saving it from threats. Her arch nemesis is the lady pirate Risky Boots, but she's also saved it from other entities before. And it's just like this fun game where she runs around and she can do all sorts of attacks. She whips her hair. That's like her main attack. That she whips her hair to like hit enemies. But she has all sorts of stuff that she accessorizes too, like she has like items that like circle around her, or she has like projectiles she can shoot, or she has back dashes and kicks and stuff she can do. So she has all sorts of moves. You know what I mean? She has like a pretty good moveset. But what she's most known for is number one, she whips enemies with her hair, and number two is that she can transform because she's a genie. She has like these little dancing animations where depending on how like you do the dance, you can transform into different creatures, which is really cool. And that's where, like the Metroidvania part comes in. That usually like, she transforms into like a spider, and she's able to like use the web to like stick to the ceiling or whatever, and reach at different areas. Or she can turn into like a bat or whatever, and that helps her fly around. Or she can turn into like an elephant, and that helps her like smash through like obstacles. And she can turn into like a monkey, and that helps her try to reach places and stuff like that. So it's just this really fun series of games where it's platforming, it's Metroidvania. Like I said, she has a really extensive move set, pretty fun stuff. And they're just like really lighthearted, quirky games where she has like a cast of characters she interacts with, and I don't know, it's just like a really fun, lighthearted series. It's kind of, fan servicey, but not like too much that it's like not like like I would say it's fan servicey, but it's still like a game that's like appropriate for everybody, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's fan servicey, but never so much that it's like, it's like adults only or whatever. It's like it's a series I think anybody could play. And it's just like a really fun series. And basically, there's the original Game Boy Color game that came out in 2002. Then there's the DSi game that came out in 2010. There's the that one was called Risky's Revenge. Then there's Shantae and the Pirate's Curse, came out in 2014. Shantae Half Genie Hero came out in 2016. Shantae and the Seven Sirens, which came out in 2019. And then, as we talked about, the upcoming game that should come out next year called Shantae Advance Risky Revolution. As for the first 5 games, they are out on like all systems now, I think. Like I know they're out on all current day systems, plus, obviously, like the first one was on Game Boy Color, so that was on Game Boy Color. The second one was on DSi, so it's on DSi, etc. Some of them even came out for like stuff like, Wii U, stuff like that. But if you want to play it like on current gen systems, it's basically on all current gen systems. I think some of them are even on Steam, I think.
A lot of them are on Steam, yeah.
Yeah, so they're really accessible basically. So if you want to play them, they're really accessible. You can play the first 5 games on basically anything, I
Practically
think.
anything, yeah.
Yeah, even like some of them, they're even available like on like Apple Arcade and iOS and stuff, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then yeah, there's a new game coming out next year. And yeah, they're pretty short games, you know, they don't take up too much of your time. So I think it's one of those things where you can sit down, you know, play like in a few sessions or whatever. It doesn't take up too much of your time. And they're really enjoyable games. They're really fun. They're quirky, really colorful. The moves are really fun. The characters are really fun. You know, it has humor, that sort of thing.
Hmm.
And I just really enjoy it. It's one of those series I'm always advocating. I'm always telling people like, yo, go play it. It's really fun. And yeah, I think it's so cool how it's been around for so long. You know what I mean? And it's
Hmm.
really cool that in recent years, I feel like that's when it's finally started to get traction. Where, yeah, you know, it's like out
Yeah.
on all systems. It was a pretty, I think I heard it sold pretty well. And, you know, for like the Switch, it sold pretty well, the newest game. They even had a intro made by Studio Trigger, which is really
Yeah.
cool. Shantae, she didn't make it into Smash, but when they talked about her getting a costume and a song, I think they said like they barely cut her. Like, I think it's one of those characters that like they almost made it, which is really cool,
They were
honestly.
gonna almost put her in, yeah.
Yeah, because I think same with like her and like Doomslayer and like Dante and like some of those characters that came out like in that pack. I think they said those are characters that like almost made it, but
That's great.
just didn't
Yeah.
make the cut. So I thought that was really cool. So yeah, it's just one of those series that seems to be growing. It seems to be getting more attention all the time. People really like it because, like I said, it's just like a fun, quirky series, and that's my recommendation. I say go check it out. It's really fun, and they're really accessible. And I think you know they're for it's a game that like everybody can play. You know, it's like for all ages and stuff. So there you go.
Hmm.
And of
Yeah, I
course, one
definitely
last
recommend it too.
yeah, one last thing. Shout out to Christina V, who voices both Shantae and the villain Risky Boots.
Hmm.
Super talented. You know, she's the one who like voices. The other thing she's really known for is you know, Miraculous Ladybug. She
Hmm.
voices her. You know, so yeah, she's done a lot of stuff, and you know, shout outs to her because I think it's really cool how this is one of like the first things she did. And it's really cool to see once again, you know, how she's just gotten really famous and she's a lot of stuff. So shout outs to her for voicing Shantae. I think it's one of my favorite roles of her, you know, even though like she doesn't
Yeah.
have like a lot of lines, it's kind of short, but I still really like her as Shantae. So
Yeah.
alrighty, guys. With that being said, there you go. That is it. That is the podcast for the week. Yeah, basically, I'm glad we were able to do this because I didn't want to have to like skip the week, even though I was gonna be out of town. So yeah, pretty cool, pretty good podcast. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed it. We will try our best to be back next week. Hopefully, you guys have fun listening to this podcast, and hopefully, give you guys a lot of stuff to look forward to. I know I'm looking forward to a lot of stuff. And yeah, with that being said, we will see you guys. So long and have a good one. Bye bye.
Bye bye, guys.